Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to What's Your Story, episode 4. I'm Leilani Langdon, your host, and this is a space where we get to journey along the lives of others so that we can be inspired to know, own, and share your story. Now, the reason why that's super important is because there is healing in our stories. There is healing found when we know, own, and share our stories. But listen, before I jump in and give you some more, hey, Marcy, I am so excited to be with you tonight. If you are part of the What's Your Story community, this is the moment where I am encouraging you to jump in the chat. Let me know you're here. Say hi. Let me know I am not alone on this Sunday evening. I am excited for a few things, but first and foremost, can I just send out a whoop whoop for the Dallas Cowboys who won their game today, okay, against the Giants, which, if you know anything about football, the Cowboys and the Giants are rival teams. And so I am super excited, okay? Hey, Ryan from Danville, Kentucky, visiting my sister with the boys, and we are all tuning in. Oh, love you guys. Give kisses to the boys for me. So happy that you get to spend time with your sister. Hey, Pam, how are you? Thank you guys. Okay, if you're coming in, let me know you're here because I want to connect with you today. I want to remind you that the comments are a judgment-free zone. Way to go, Cowboys. Yep. All my Cowboys fans. Hopefully I don't lose a few of you, but this is a judgment-free zone. It is a space where we get to empower, encourage, and inspire one another on this journey called life. And so I'm so excited that I get to participate with you in that space. Now, tonight is gonna be extra special because not only, hey Evie, how you doing, Mama? Good to see you. But not only do I get to interact with you and we get to hear the story, but we're doing a giveaway, guys. It is episode 4 of season 2, and I was just feeling super generous. So why not have a giveaway? So let me give you some information. Jack Hearts. Continue to let me know you're here. But okay, let you know what's happening today. So today we're gonna have a giveaway. And as always, when we've done a giveaway, we select the members in the community who have won the giveaway at the end of the show. So here's how you can enter to win this giveaway. All you have to do if you want to be in the giveaway today is to hashtag I'm ready in the comments. All right. You may not know what you're ready for, but we want you to hashtag I'm ready in the comments, and I will be entering your name into the giveaway wheel. And at the end of the show, I will announce who our giveaway winners are. And today we're going to have 2 giveaways. Yes, Marcy, you ready? I know you ready, girl. Hola, Alma. Mwah. Love you, girl. So happy that you guys are in. Okay, hashtag I'm ready in the comments if you want to be entered into the giveaway, which we will announce winners at the end of the show. Okay, now, but that's not it. I just want to also let you know that tonight's episode, we get to sit and hear the journey of Annabel Quintero. Adrian, wait, can I win too? I don't know, boo. I guess you can. You know what I mean? Like, you're not privy to the background, so I guess so. Why not? But tonight we get to journey with Annabel Quintero on her amazing story of how she escaped Tower 1 on September 9/11. And the way that she shares her story, it's so lighthearted, but it is honest, it's vulnerable, it is courageous, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Now, I do want you to know that I am going to be with you in the comments, but I do want you to know that the segment of the story, of her story, is pre-recorded. She lives on the West Coast in Seattle, and unfortunately, we could not find a Sunday that would work with the time zones because Pacific Standard Time and Central Standard Time sometimes don't clash. I mean, sometimes don't work together. However, as you are hearing the story, as you are being moved by the lessons that she's gone through, by the healing of her trauma, your job as the community is to not only just encourage her, because guess what? She's going to be watching, right? She's going to be taking this show in. And so I want to see you, and I want to hear how you are encouraging her to continue to live a life of purpose as a result of sharing her story. And so I wanted to let you know that. The other thing that I need to let you know, and I will let you know again at the end, is that next week, actually this next week, I'm going to be flying to New Jersey. I'm so excited because if you know anything about me, my parents live in New Jersey, and that's where I grew up. I am an East Coast girl, and my brother is actually getting married on Saturday, the 16th. And so I can't wait to just be a part of that beautiful experience, just to see my grandmother who's flying in from Puerto Rico. I haven't seen her in a few years. So it's going to be an amazing weekend. However, on Sunday, because we are actually traveling back, there will be no What's Your Story live. We will be resuming October 24th. So October 24th will be episode 5 of What's Your Story. All right. Now that we have those out of the way, if you are just joining, if you want to enter the giveaway, you see the this right here. It tells you how to enter. And before I go ahead and bring up Annabel, Adrian, if we make Jersey jokes, will you post them on the stream? I will. Adrian, come on, man. Let's not go there tonight, okay? Let's keep Jersey not in the comments, okay? But before we do that, I just want to remind you why this platform is important. This space is important because it's an opportunity for you as a listener to be inspired to sit with your story, to be inspired to stop ignoring some of those memories and some of those experiences that you've been ignoring, that you have been hiding, that you have been keeping silent, because there is healing in your story. And you are going to see that tonight through Annabelle's story. There is healing in your story. There's healing in telling it. And the reason why that is, one of the two things that happen when you are willing to sit and be brave and write your story, share your story, right? Process your story, is that it allows you to discover feelings, thoughts, memories that you have hidden. Because guess what happens sometimes when we hide parts of our story that are difficult? We suppress our emotion. We tend to allow those negative feelings as we try to hide them to just sit there and fester. And who knows that a festering wound cannot heal? And so today I want to let you know that as you take the step and are courageous to share your story, you are taking a step towards releasing negativity, towards embracing newness, embracing purpose, embracing healing. And so I want to encourage you today to know, own, and share your story. And so without that, hey, Nikki, I am ready. Yes, girl, you are. I can't wait to put all of you guys in the giveaway wheel so that you can be entered in to win tonight. All right. Without further ado, I am going to jump in and play Annabelle's story. I am so excited because tonight we get to sit down with Annabel and have her share her amazing story. And I'm just excited to go on this journey with her. But Annabel, let me tell you a little bit about her before I bring her on. Annabel Quintero is a certified wellness coach. She's a best-selling author and DEI strategist. Her best-selling book, Step, Step, Jump, is a story of hope dedicated to helping others transform trauma to triumph. Annabelle's life was irrevocably altered on September 11, 2001, when she narrowly escaped from the 46th floor of the World Trade Center's Tower 1 during the deadliest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. As a speaker, advocate, coach for Lisa Nichols, she helps people with public speaking and helps them find their voice. With that being said, I'm going to bring on Annabel and welcome her to our What's Your Story community tonight. Annabel, how are you?
So good, Leilani. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I am so excited that we get a chance to sit down and journey through your story. But before we do that, go ahead and tell me a little bit about who you are. Tell us who you are.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Well, your introduction, yes, I'm a DEI strategist, certified wellness coach. And so much of when I do these workshops and these classes, I teach Latinx history. I'm always sharing all these different stories of my life. But there was one story that I could never share, and that was that I'm a September 11th survivor.
Wow.
Jump.
Yes, I can't.
Jump.
Yes, I can't wait to hear more about it. So, Annabelle, tell us, what's your story?
Absolutely. Well, that day, so I worked at a boutique hedge fund, and that Tuesday morning it was sunny, and I woke up to the radio and to crows cawing really loudly outside my bedroom window. And I looked outside and the whole tree was filled with crows.
Wow.
And I was like,
weird.
Because I had pulled the crow as an animal spirit before when I had done an animal reading. And so I was like, okay, I got to hurry up and go to work. I don't have time to figure out what the message is. I gotta go. So I jumped on the subway and headed downtown and got there. You know, I had my breakfast, had my newspaper, and I was like running late and my boss's sweater was on the chair. So I was like, okay, I got to hurry up because it was I was mortified, right?
Oh my gosh. Because that meant he probably had already moved on to the meeting that maybe you were supposed to be at. I know the boss chair sweater thing. I know.
Exactly. So I'm like turning on the computers and printers and getting all the portfolio ready because the stock market was about to open. And I was like, oh my goodness, he's probably in the restroom, right? So I was doing all that, and finally everything was printing, and I was reading the paper, and all of a sudden I feel something just fall on the tower above me. And I was like, and my chair went from right to left, and I was like, oh, what was that? So I go to the window, I look outside, and I was like, some building must have fallen on ours, right? But it was crazy because all the buildings were still and they were shorter than mine. And I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Because there was no fire alarm and no announcement. And then the rumbling began, and I just ran to my desk, grabbed my purse, my sweater, and I got to the door. And then there I am looking at this man, because on our floor, it was owned by different businesses. And this older Asian man was looking at me and like could see the fear in his eyes. And I was like, and there was still nothing happening. And then all of a sudden the rumbling began, and it felt like an earthquake, Leilani. It was crazy. And
had you experienced an earthquake before?
Yeah, in California.
Okay.
Back in like, when was that? 94.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I knew how one felt, and it was taking us left to right, and he ran back into the office, and then his door just slammed, and I was there left all alone by myself. And I was like, ay, Dios mío, ¿qué hago? You know, I kept trying to look. Yeah, I was like looking, saying, okay, well, maybe I should take cover under the desk. But there were boxes, and I was like, but I felt something fall on top of me, even though it feels like an earthquake now. I don't know if this is really an earthquake.
Wow. And
then I looked in the office, and it went from sunny and clear to like this muted gray. And I knew that was my answer. I was like, wow, this is no place for the living. And it was, then my fears started coming in, because it's one thing to ask God, what should I do? And then you get your answer, you know, you get that sign, even if it's subtle, you get it. And then it's like, oh my goodness, now I have to actually move my body.
Like my gut is telling me to move, but now I have to actually physically move when you have no idea, right? What's happening?
No, you don't. And so in that moment, I had to tell myself, okay, you got to leave Annabel, even if you die trying. So I had to like face the worst case scenario in my mind, death, just to take that first step. And I did. And I was running in the hallway, and let me tell you, that floor
was still swaying.
Like, oh my goodness. It was swaying. It was left and right. I mean, I was touching the walls when, you know, they were like far away, and I was just being, you know, thrown around like a rag doll in like this fun house or something. And then finally I get to the stairwell. And finally, like the 1,368 feet of steel stops. So I'm standing there and I'm freaking out, and I'm like, I got to get out of here. And I'm touching the doorknob to the stairwell, and I cannot tell if it's hot or cold. And I knew from like training, like in school, don't open the door if the doorknob's hot.
Right. Because there's usually something fiery behind it.
But then I was like, oh my goodness, I gotta get out of here. And so I was like, okay, calm down. So I've been meditating for a few years here and there, and I was like, I just calm down, Annabelle, just breathe. Yeah. So to calm myself down, I was like, breathe in, breathe out. And then I was like, let me listen to the story of my synapses. And I was like, okay, it's cold. And then I opened that door, and no one was there. No fire alarm.
Where is everybody?
I was like all by myself still. But then all of a sudden, like, then I felt like I was getting choked. Like there wasn't any smoke, but there was like this invisible, like corrosive stench
or something.
And when I would breathe, it felt like it was like singeing my lungs and my like tongue and everything. And I was like, oh no, there's a fire. I was like, you know, so then I was like, okay, I really got to get out of here. Like, I don't know what's happening. So I put my hand on the railing, and I step with my left, and I step with my right, and I jump on the landing, and I step, jump, step, jump. And it wasn't until the 33rd floor that there were people.
Wow.
Yeah.
From the 46th floor to the 33rd, no one.
No. I mean, when I was running, I mean, I was like jumping, and I mean, I was only doing like 2 steps and then jumping on the landing. Right. Oh yeah. And this one guy came in like a couple of floors behind me, and he was like, oh, slow down, don't hurt yourself. And I was so focused, and I'm like, why isn't he hurrying down? Like, don't tell me to slow down. I'm like, we gotta get out of here. There's something going on. Yeah, and even till then, there wasn't inside the stairwell, there wasn't any like alarm or announcement or anything like that. And you know, in that stairwell, you know, in my book, Step, Jump, I take people on that journey, right? Like how I confronted like hysterical people, and, you know, seeing this, you know, burned lady, she had these sweaters wrapped around her, and, you know, there was like this mossy, something had melted on her head, and it was just awful. And then, you know, just even seeing, you know, our beloved firefighters, you know, come up, and really for me, you know, I have this moment where I share this, he stops, there was like a line of firefighters coming up, and I share how, I didn't understand why they were coming up. Like, I was like, we should get out. Like, what are they going to do? Like, you know, and no one was really answering me. I was just kind of like yelling out loud.
Wow.
And in his eyes, like, I could just see acceptance, and it crushed me, you know, like in the book, I talk about how I got out. Most of my, the story is me in a cab. And then I really take people on this journey of like not knowing what PTSD is, not knowing what acute trauma is. You know, even in the cab, like, you know, dealing with feeling conquered, right? Because it's like, I had, here I am. I had just moved from Seattle to New York. I was modeling. I was B-girling, with hip hop's finest.
Yes.
I was like working on Wall Street. It was like, here I am, 25 years old, and I got like,
I'm top of your game.
What?
At the top of your game, girl. You're doing it all.
Exactly. Like living out loud and like, I got my destiny in my hands, right?
Yes.
And then having it all, this life-altering event, and just everything was taken from me, like that day, everything. And that's where, really I felt like so much of the ways that I used to define myself were gone. Like, it was like all the different, like my positions and these title and this place of work that was so iconic and meant so much was gone. And it was like a death of many of my egos died. And I was just there with my soul and my body. And I had to just rebuild myself from there.
Wow. How did you end up, because I'm sure some people are wondering, so how did you end up actually getting out? You said you got to the 33rd floor and that's when you started to see the people, right? Filing out. So how did you get out? How did you even get to a cab? When did you notice that the tower was hit? And, so walk us through that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's chapter 3. It's called The September Fall in my book. And so it was slow going because at the time we didn't have we had cell phones and two-way pagers. We did not have smartphones. Right. So none of the cell phones worked. So we were in the stairway and we did not know what was happening. There was this one Puerto Rican guy who he had a two-way pager, and then he was the one kind of giving us information here and there. Because there was a space in the center, like near the railing that was cleared out, I was actually going down that and then slipping in to the right when the firefighters were coming up, because I couldn't believe that people would squeeze themselves like sardines in a subway to go to work morning and night. And then when there's like an emergency, everyone was really like nonchalant and like taking their time. And I was like, what is going on?
Kind of probably felt like a Twilight movie. That was one of the things I noticed in your book is you're explaining the experience. It's almost like nobody could compute that there was really an emergency, but you're feeling this sense of alarm, like, I have to get out. Something is really wrong. But everyone else seemed to just be calm.
Yeah. And I think also too, it was even a hard decision to leave because you're supposed to, you're a New Yorker, you work hard, you got to like grind, and you're supposed to just stay in your desk and like put your head down and like stay at work. So even that was a huge part of the challenge. And then, people in the stairwell, they just weren't moving. And so finally, he shared with us that, a passenger airplane hit our tower. And we were like, oh my goodness. So then we finally knew, there's a fire. Like, we could finally understand
your brain,
what we felt, right? And then we went down further, and then he shared that a plane hit Tower 2. Wow. And that was when fear just completely took over everyone was silent, and we could just feel it. And we knew that this wasn't an accident. Wow. Yeah. The first time we thought it was an accident, but then when it hit the second one, and we couldn't see anything, right? So you're inside, you can't see anything. So we didn't know. It took me about an hour to get down.
Wow.
It took me about an hour. And then by the bottom floors, the alarms were on, the sprinklers were on. I was drenched. When you got to the lobby and it was all dark, and the lights had fallen down because of all the shaking, and there was tons of water. I was like, thank God I had put on my Easy Spirit boots that day, because
my
if I was in heels, and at the time those slip-on heels were in style, and
oh yeah, it would have been. You would have been barefoot, my friend.
yeah. So, and then there was a mall underneath. So we went through the mall, got out at Borders Books, and then thank God, like right when I got out of the building, there was a first responder, and she was like, move away from the building, and it was, I kind of just needed that direction because I was just like,
disoriented.
Very. And I was like, thank God I was on solid ground. I was like, oh, and then, but when I had turned, that's when I saw the fire coming out both sides of the tower. And I was like, I just came out of that. I just couldn't believe it. And so I was trying to get out of there as fast as I could. And that was right at like Trinity Church, right at Cortland. So then I walked to Broadway and then walked north on Broadway. And this lady came and, was like, are you okay? And I could like, no, I was like crying. And she's like, can you get a hold of your mom? I was like, no, I keep calling. And there was a long line at the payphone. I was like, oh no, I don't want to be waiting in some long line.
You don't want to be close to anything. Yeah.
I wanted to get out of there. And so she helped me on Broadway and Canal. She helped me get in the cab, and this nice man named Anthony shared it with me. And so we got in there, and I will say this one part, there's a chapter called Church Street Smoke. And we, there's tons of traffic on Canal, like always. And we're stopped. And, I'm like nervous. I'm like, okay, I want to get out of here. And then all of a sudden the light turns green, and I'm like, okay, go. And the taxi driver's like, wait, the people. And I look, and all these people run into the middle of the intersection. They almost get ran over by all the cars.
Oh my gosh.
And then there's a white plume behind them. And we're like, what is that? We're like, what is this white plume? All this white smoke. And, then the taxi driver, locks the doors, like, no one, I'm not bringing in any more people.
Oh my God.
And it was heart-wrenching because people were trying to open doors. They were trying to get into the buildings.
Oh.
I mean, and we didn't know what it was. We couldn't see. So it wasn't until we got to Canal and Avenue of the Americas and we went north, and, Anthony and I turned around in the cab, and then we saw that only Tower 1 was burning and Tower 2 was gone.
Oh my goodness.
And we just fell apart. I mean, we were like, the people, did they get out? I mean, it just devastated. And that's always just stayed with me, which is why I've been silent for so many years, because of the guilt and the pain of it. When you survive something like that, you actually feel guilty that you're alive. It's a strange phenomenon. It's like you're grateful that you're alive, and then I was in the cycle where I would fall to my knees and thank God, and then cry, and then feel guilty. And then I'm wasting this time crying. So then I get more mad at myself that other people are not here, and here I am just crying.
Yeah. But that's the reality of the trauma, right? And the grief, there's so much grieving that took place, so much loss, not just physical, but also for you, right? A loss of a career. I mean, not career, but the building represented so much, right? A change in your life, almost a catalyst for something.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when it was like, because I grew up Christian and I had a strong relationship with God, but I wasn't getting better, right? Like I'd see a therapist, but I wasn't getting better. So I had finally decided to go back to Seattle, to my trees and mountains. And that's when for the first time, I did a 10-day meditation. I was silent for 10 days. It's called Vipassana. And that allowed me to understand why I was getting triggered. Like, I didn't know what creates our human behavior. I didn't realize that it is the dynamic between a story or a memory in our minds.
Yes.
And then our emotions come up.
Yes.
And then we start feeling bodily sensations, like even like, you know, my cheeks are warm, you know, right? Like all of that. And then we will react.
Behave in a certain way. Yes, absolutely.
And I was just reacting, and I was just getting triggered. And then so meditating taught me, oh, I can watch. I can be a quantumist. I can watch my behavior. I can see how the three pillars play with each other, but I can choose how I want to respond.
Yes.
And that opened up, that just gave me tools that just, even to this day, I meditate, and it just is a big part of my practice and how I help people. And then after that, like a week later, my dear friend Carolyn invited me to an Anipi, which is a sweat lodge. And it's Native American, you know, she's East Band Cherokee, but she was taught under the Lakota Nation. And I didn't know what that was. Like, I'm Latina, I'm part Native and African and European, but you know, in the Latino culture, we don't get to learn about our African and indigenous roots. It's hidden, and it's, you know, not valued, right? Like no one knows anything about it. And so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go. I need more, right? She said it was gonna help. So
this was shortly after 9/11.
Yeah. This was November. So I had gone to Seattle in November. Wow. Yeah. And so here I am, you know, just getting out of this 10-day sit. And then a week later, here I am in this, it's kind of like an igloo made out of willow trees. And there's a drum, you know, like the first instrument of Mother Earth, right? And there's prayer.
Yes.
And then the fire is outside, and there's these lava rocks that get heated up by the fire. And then someone brings them in. And so Carolyn, it's called pouring a lodge because you actually pour water on the rocks.
So similar to maybe what a sauna would feel like when there's live, like the steam is flowing.
That's where the sauna came. That the sauna is like a Western version of a sweat lodge.
Oh, good to know, right?
Yeah, without the sacredness and spirituality, right? But yes, and so I really that's in chapter Mother Earth. I never knew that I could have an experience where my trauma and all these dense energy could be given to Mother Earth, and she could take it and transmute it for me. Like, I had never related to Mother Earth in that way. And it really helped me understand, like, wow, we are so much more connected and to Mother Earth and are a part of her, not just like, she just does stuff for us, right? You know, the wood, the water, the air. No, it's, and I had never felt that connection before. And it really sparked a whole new understanding for me and my relationship with God and my spirituality. And it's allowed me to really help others in their healing as well.
As a result. So Annabel, I mean, the courage and the bravery that you had that day, really, you said this earlier, right? Your life would never be the same again. It would forever change that day. And you started talking a little bit about the trauma and how that led you to kind of through a journey of healing. You know, what has your story inspired you to do, you know, as a result of that? Because you said, you know, and as I kind of shared your bio, it's, you know, transitioning and transforming trauma, right, into triumph. And how were you able to do that? And how have you been inspired by that story to live different, be different, experience life differently?
Thank you for asking. I think the biggest shift that happened within was me realizing that my lived experience gave me wisdom in a way that I could share my lessons with others. And in me sharing my story, I also realized that others had stories that they'd been silent on and have been like trapped. Like people compartmentalize it, they put it away, right? And then seeing how as everyone shares their story, we are releasing, we are healing, we are actually now valuing our wisdom. And we're sharing it with others, and we're helping others at the same time. So absolutely. Especially, you know, as a Latina, seeing the trauma of whether it's systemic trauma or trauma of racism or trauma of, you know, what humankind does to each other. I mean, I put all of it in the book because that's the life of a woman of color in America. I mean, that's the reality, and we go through a lot. And I think that we need to celebrate so much of what we've overcome and the way we show up with, you know, all of that, like despite all the things that we've gone through, and we still continue on to step into leadership and to be mothers and be community leaders and advocates. And so that has really helped me with all the DEI work that I do, all the advocacy, or just even helping people understand, like, because I work a lot with the dominant culture too. It's like, what did they lose also? Because and the emotional labor involved in doing DEI work. It's hard. It's hard for everyone, right? But it's allowed me to hold space for the dominant culture, for, you know, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and to really like acknowledge how triggering the conversations are, being compassionate, like, and us just remembering, let's step into our cultural blind spot, because we all have them.
We all have them. Absolutely.
Yeah. And only when we're finally, everyone is stepping into them, like when we're finally all the cultures and all the wisdoms and all the knowledge, that's when we can finally get to a place where it's like, okay, now we're all here. Now we can relate.
Finally.
Now we can speak our truth, and it's okay, and no one needs to get defensive, and we're just all sharing. But it's that's what it's taken me down this path, and and just separating like my faith from, you know, I'm Christian, right? And it's like saying that you're Christian right now, people are like, you know. You know, and like, and also separating faith from how the faith has colonization and the African diaspora and the wealth building through propertizing, you know, African lives. And what does that mean today? How did we get here? Like, all of that has to be discussed, because we can't just stay in silos. We can't do a spiritual bypass. We can't say, I'm Christian, my church doesn't need to decolonize its faith. We can't do that in the wellness space. Like, everything in wellness is ancient and not from the Western world, yet who's leading those spaces?
Right. Absolutely. And my goodness. Sorry. No, I just, you know, what came to mind was what led you, so what inspired you to write your book, right? And to kind of capture not just this story, because what I love about it is that, you know, what we say on What's Your Story, it's know it, own it, and share it, right? So it's so important to know your story, but it's not enough to just, you know, intellectually understand it. It's important to know it with your soul, to know it to as to how it can help transform, right? Giving your voice power, giving your story power, by not hiding it, right? So we share it. And so when you wrote your book, you share in a way, your life story up to this point, right? And how everything kind of just intertwines. And so what inspired you to write your book? Like what moment hit you that's, you know what, I need to put this in a book. I need to put this on paper.
Well, I love it. Well, the first time I wrote about what had happened to me was to my family. It was an email.
Wow.
And I wrote out everything that happened to me And I said, I'm emailing you all the details of what happened on the 11th, because if you call me, I cannot utter a word of it. I can talk to you about how I am doing now, but I can't go back and replay the story. So that email, I let it all out. And I also realized I in a way created a silent vow that I was going to keep reverence of those who died by being silent.
Wow.
And that took a lot for me to break through. We sometimes have these silent promises that we don't realize we have. And so that was one of them. And then throughout the years, I'd see, just what's happened. I know a lot about history, and I know a lot about, Latino history, Western Hemisphere history, Indigenous, African history. And I'm like, okay. And I could tell that it was impacting the present moment, but a lot of people do not know Western Hemisphere history. So I'm having these conversations, these debates, and then I realize, like, oh, they haven't read this book, or they don't know this or that. And and that kind of was like, oh, I know a lot more about this than I think. And so throughout the years, I've always journaled. And so
powerful.
It's just been this process. Like I tried to finish this book back in 2009, and I couldn't do it. 2009, 2010, I just became, my second daughter was born, and it was just, I wasn't in the space, but I had tried for many years, and I just kept writing. I just kept writing. But finally I was, when I got onto the Lisa Nichols campus and became a student, and then actually shared it with like people outside of my family, that changed me. Like, and then I was an Ignite student, and they picked me to share a 3-minute story on her stage.
Woo!
In Newport, California, in front of like hundreds of people. And there's like thousands live streaming from around the world. And I share this story, and I even ask people, how long have you been silent on a story? And can I tell you, it's like 5 years, 8, 10, 30 years. I mean, and I, even for your audience, like, how long have you been quiet and like not uttered a word of a story? And you'll see that all these years passing, and that changed. When I saw the impact of sharing my story, I was like, okay, I'm writing this book. And I got a book coach. I got an editor. I had a whole team of like soul sisters helping me out.
Listen, there's nothing like accountability in community, but that question, how long have you been silent, is so powerful, because it forces everyone who hears it to answer, even if they don't answer audibly, but you answer internally. And then it just makes, we lie to ourselves, and we tell ourselves that our stories are better left untold. And that is not true, because our stories can give life to someone else. Our stories have the ability and the power to change somebody else's trajectory, because they get to learn, and they get to hear, and they get to experience from us. So I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much for being willing to break through, right? And to break through that silence, and be willing to share, and be courageous and brave enough to really leave it all out there.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying that, because one of the takeaways is people are like, wow, you really went there with like your own history and your own culture. And I was like, when I was in the cab, and I remember just feeling, we didn't know what was happening. Like, we still felt under attack. Like, now we could say it was one day, but at the time, we didn't know if war, we were like in a state of war.
What was going to happen? Yeah, absolutely.
And so feeling conquered. And so I went back in my mind, and I studied political science and history. And I just remember reading all those books of what happened to, Native Americans through colonization, what happened with my African ancestors, through the African diaspora, and like all of it. And I was like, this is how it must have felt being conquered. Like, this is, and war is so traumatizing. I mean, it is one of the most, I don't, it just continues the trauma and the trauma. And so it's been difficult. Like when you say writing this book, all the different wars and the different places we've had wars in the last 20 years, it would re-trigger me because I knew it was from the 11th. Like the 11th was the beginning, right?
The catalyst that caused this,
yes.
jumpstart.
And then you're like, okay, we have grief, we're angry. Now what? Like we need to do something else with our anger. We can't just continue on warring and our only legacy being war. And it's a very uncomfortable thing to say, right? Yeah. I mean, but as a survivor, I only did experience one day of it, and I can't imagine any person having to deal with it more than a day, because I know how it crippled me. And so I have compassion for those people. I want them to have peace. It is a human right to have peace. I mean, that is what we should be allowed to do in any part of the world, not just one country. Correct. Like all of us should be able to live in peace. And so, so that was a big pushing. That was like, okay, Annabelle, you got to do this.
Oh my goodness. Well, I am so glad you did. One of the last questions I want to ask you is, what would you tell somebody who is, has heard your question? How long have you been silent? And, replays the trauma that they have experienced. And what would you tell them? How can they go from trauma to triumph, right? What would be something you'd want to leave them with?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the first thing when you even write the story for yourself or you replay it in your mind is acknowledge the triggers and the traumas that you have from it. And then, know what those are, acknowledge them, because the acknowledgement is the first step. And the second step is practicing self-awareness. Whether, if you meditate, that's a great way to do it. But if that's not your thing, then praying in silence and also journaling, like journal the memory, journal what bodily sensations come up. Where do I feel hot? Where do I feel cold? Is there an ache in my belly? Is there a rock in there?
I love that.
And then write what's happening emotionally with you, within your body. Because if you can journal, now you're practicing self-awareness. Now you're practicing, oh, this is what's coming up in my body. Like, and that's when you really start listening. You have to watch your body and listen. And sometimes you need to journal to do that. So that's the second step. And then the third one, I'd say you have to do something new. And you have to take new action.
Yes.
And most of the time, it will be in your cultural blind spot.
Interesting. I love
that. So that's the
three.
That's the three things.
Wow. I absolutely love that. And I think it's so pivotal to be able to kind of step outside of yourself and gain that awareness that journaling can give you, right? Or like having something outside of yourself that you can see. I absolutely love that. Annabelle, before I send you backstage, can you tell us where we can find you? And we're going to have everything in the comments for people, but where can someone reach out to you and kind of say, hey, I'd love to hear more of your story. And, just for my What's Your Story community, I'm going to be giving away 2 of Annabelle's books, Step, Step, Jump. I'm so excited. I read the story and it was so compelling and beautiful. And so it caused me to reach out to you and want to hear more of your story. So we'll do that right after I send her backstage. But tell us, where can we find more of you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Stepstepjump.com. And also you can get the book on Amazon. And you can sign up and listen to chapter 3. I have the audio. So awesome. You can listen, sign up for your free audio chapter as well. And it's this September fall.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, Annabelle, thank you again for your courage, your bravery, your authenticity, and your genuine spirit. It really is inspiring to know that you have triumphed over your trauma and are now doing everything you can to support and help those who are in need. So thank you so much for what you do. I'm going to send you backstage. Okay, we'll see you in a little bit. Guys, I don't know about you, but I have goosebumps. They're so trauma. Evie said it. It's so hard to leave trauma behind. There's so many of us. Yes, thank you to Annabel for sharing her amazing story, being so brave and courageous and authentic and vulnerable, and doing what we all want to do, is living on purpose, allowing our stories to direct us and show us the path that God has called us on. But I want to leave you with that question. How long have you been silent on your story? And I hope that you can sit with it. I hope that you can process it, because sharing your story, reliving some of that story may bring about those negative feelings, but it allows you to be free. Remember, the enemy tells us and lies to us that our stories are better left untold. And it's not till we can bring them to light that God can begin to heal it. And so I want to encourage you this week, and I want to challenge you this week to begin that process of doing and sharing your story. And that can be different for different people. You can write out your story, right? Annabelle's talked about being a journaler. I am an avid journaler. That is a way that you can process it and get it outside of yourself. But maybe writing is not your thing. What about painting, right? Or dancing, music, cooking, doing a recipe and being able to retell that story. Go through the memories, think about the lessons in that story. And so the power is in sharing it. The power is in breaking through that silence. She talked about that vow of silence, right? That we sometimes go through life making promises, silent promises to ourselves that we never recognize the impact that they have on our lives. And so I thank you again, Annabel, for sharing your story, being courageous. And so I also want to let you know, before we do the giveaway, because I haven't forgotten, we're going to do it old school style. I have a jar with the names. If you are just coming in and you want to be part of the giveaway, go ahead and write "I'm ready" in the comments. But the last thing I want to let you know is that if you are in a place where you're ready to explore your story, if you're ready to explore your story and you just don't know how, I want to let you know that if you go to Leilani Langdon on Instagram and you click in my bio, you can sign up, put in your email, and I will send you a guide as to how to begin to formulate your story. How do you start facing that story, to write it down, to think about it, to explore it, to begin to even share it? And so you can go ahead to Instagram, click on my bio, and you can sign up to get that guide. It's free. It'll just be downloaded into your email, and you can begin the process of healing through your story. Shanoa, I see you, girl. I'm putting in the last minute I'm ready's. The boys are well past, but they are entered entranced with Annabelle's story. I'm so grateful that they were able to experience her bravery and courage. All right, guys, without further ado, here we go. So like I said, the giveaway, I am giving away 2 of Annabelle's books. I read the book and it was just so powerful. So, all right, here we go. Old school style. I'm just going to pick a name. I can't even get my fingers in this little jar. All right, first name. I need a drum roll. Hey, first winner is Kaitana Woods. Hey, let's give it up for Kaitana. You can't even see. Let's see if the camera picks up her name. Nope. Yep. Nope. It's not going to do it. But Kaitana Woods is our first winner. So let's give it up for her. Kaitana, I'll be DMing you to get more information as to how you'd like the book, whether you would like it audio or actual physical. And second, actually, I didn't shake it. Second winner is Pam Langdon. Hey, Pam Langdon is the second winner of tonight's giveaway. But guys, you can find, hey, Kaitana. Boom to boom. Oh, okay, that's the drum. That's the drum roll. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. You didn't like my drum roll? My brrr, I guess not. Hey, congrats. So guys, you can find Annabelle's story at step jump.com for those of you who were not part of the giveaway, but you can listen to chapter 3. It is available for free on her website. And on there, you can actually continue to see some of the work that she has been inspired to do as a result of her story, to be a voice for the marginalized, and to be able to continue to help others navigate their trauma so that they can be triumphant and live a life of purpose. Just want to remind you before we head out of here that next week we will not be having an episode because I will be in New Jersey at my brother's wedding enjoying family time. But we will be back on October 24th. All right, guys. As always, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm so grateful to get to spend my Sundays with you. And I will see you on October 24th for episode 5 of season 2. What's your story?